So welcome to this PyQ webinar, Intelligence for the Future. I'm Alison Jones. I'm Director of Practical Inspiration Publishing, host of the Extraordinary Business Book Club, and it's very, very good to have you here. And the aim of this webinar series is to explore how work is changing in these unprecedented times and give us the insights and the strategies and the skills to help navigate that transformation better. And if you have a particular topic that you would like us to cover or any feedback on how we can make the sessions even more useful, then feel free to drop me a line afterwards, alison@alisonjones.com. So let me introduce today's speaker. Marianne Page is an award-winning leader and developer of high-performing teams, inspiring successful small business owners to build the simple systems and high-performing team that will free them from the day-to-day of their operation, giving them back the time to enjoy a fulfilling life, confident that their business is running as it should. Marianne developed a number of high-performing teams of her own during a 27-year career as a senior manager with McDonald's, including 8 years as training manager. And for the past 10 years, she's worked closely with successful business owners who've overcomplicated their life and their business. I don't know if this is resonating with anybody else here, helping them to develop the systems and the structure that will make their operation consistent and free them to work on the business rather than in it. She is also the best-selling author of Simple, Logical, Repeatable, The McFreedom Report, Process to Profit, and most recently, publishing tomorrow, you can see behind me here, Mission to Manage, because managing people doesn't need to be mission impossible. So welcome, Marianne. I've just realised you're muted. There we go. Hello, now we can hear you.
I'm here. Hello all. Hello, Alison. Lovely to be here.
Really, really good. Yeah, really, really good to have you here. And actually, if anybody listens to the podcast regularly, you'll have heard Marianne on Monday. That was a great conversation about the writing. But today we're going to focus on business resiliency, because that seems like such a topical subject at the moment. And it's something that you can speak to at a number of different levels as well. So let's start, Marianne, with just saying, well, when we talk about business resiliency, what do we actually mean?
Well, for me, it definitely means something bad happens and you're able to bounce back from it, that you don't fold, you don't crumble, that there is a positive outcome from it. And I think for me, it goes alongside being agile, being able to overcome or ideally foresee problems that are coming and maneuver around them. But, like with a pandemic, you can't usually foresee something as big as this. And it's very difficult to maneuver around it.
Yeah, so it's a combination of spotting what could happen and then just generally preparing the business so that you can face whatever happens, because...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny, I was having a conversation this morning with a guy who was talking about, what it takes to be a resilient business, and, how, small businesses are, have an advantage because they're more agile. And I was saying, well, actually, my experience of a rather large business in McDonald's is that they can be agile too if they've got the right elements in place to allow them to be agile. And McDonald's for me is an incredibly resilient business. I was with them through a number of crises. They do seem to go through quite a few, one way and another. A couple of financial crises, mad cow disease, their main distribution center burning to the ground, and now, of course, the pandemic. And on the day of lockdown, I watched their share price just plummet by $100. I mean, the graph is incredible. But the graph now is also incredible because they have come straight back up in almost the same vertical line. And that for me is because they are resilient, because they have in place what they need to have in place to be resilient.
So let's unpack that, shall we?
Yeah,
tell me, what are the components of resilience, whatever your size?
Yeah, there are four key foundations for me. First of all, they are compulsive, obsessive planners. Every single 90 days, they bring people together from all over the organization, franchisees, suppliers, corporate people, department people, operational, and they look back at the last 90 days and review it, look for lessons learned, look for what's working, what isn't, and then they look forward to the next 90 days. What's coming, what's on the horizon, what do we need to be ready for? And because they do that just as a matter of course, because it is so systematic. When something big hits, they pull together those same groups of people, and they plan their way out of it. They plan what's going to happen. It's not a, oh my God, the sky's falling. I don't know about anybody else on the call, but the first 2 days of lockdown, I was in, oh my God, oh, where's everybody gone? And you need to have those robust planning structures in place. It's about the whole exercise of planning. It's not who said that. It's not the plans themselves.
It's the planning.
The fact that it is the planning. It's the fact that it's what you normally do. So you bring together a team, and you plan your way out of it. And they because they do that, they are the meerkats rather than the hamsters. They're always looking up. It's why they stay ahead of the game. There are lots of people who make better burgers than McDonald's. I think that's fair to say. And regardless of what you think of their food, they stay ahead of their competitors all the time. It doesn't matter who comes along. Doesn't matter how good they are at what they do, because McDonald's is constantly looking to innovate, constantly looking to improve. It makes them incredibly resilient. So that's the first thing is absolutely is planning.
And I love that distinction you make, that it's not necessarily the plans, which can go out the window if they have to. It's the planning. It's that beat, that rhythm, and that sort of discipline.
Exactly, and it is rhythm, and it is discipline. And I'm glad you mentioned the word discipline, because it's that discipline to review what's happened in the past and learn lessons from it. I work with a lot of businesses where they deal in projects. And every project manager that I've ever talked to talks about, you do the project and then you have a project review. Very few project managers actually get to the review or do it in a really effective way. And it's the review of what you've learned from what's gone right as well as what's got wrong, that discipline to review, that stands you in good stead going forward. So all of McDonald's crises, they have learned big lessons from it, major lessons from every single crisis. I was part of the crisis management team for when mad cow disease hit, and there was an awful lot of work had to go into that, but because McDonald's customers trusted that they would get it right, they came back in their droves and ate meat. And yes, there was a whole strategy to move more into chicken, which they continued, because chicken is incredibly popular, obviously. But their customers came back and ate meat because they trusted that McDonald's would get it right. And there are a number of reasons for that, which I will get into. The second thing for me, in terms of foundations, is around the team and the culture that you build within your business. Only having people in your business who share your values, who buy into what you're all about, who are as enthused as you are about getting stuff right, getting stuff done. And the best example for me with regard to team and resilience was when the distribution center burned down. Everybody in the team wanted to know what they could do to help. All of the support departments, right? What do you need? Do you need me to drive a minibus full of buns up to Aberdeen? What can I do to help? And I think over this pandemic, there have been business owners who've found out a lot about their team, about their team members, good and bad, or bad. They found out a lot about their team. Who's really with them, who maybe is a bit on the fence, and who possibly needs to go because actually they're not contributing as they should be to the business. They're not as bought in as they should be to the business. And I've talked to a number of people who've learned lessons about individuals in their team and have, because they've had more time to think as well, it is that having time to properly assess your team, to just sit and think who's in your team, who's right, who's not. There's a question I love to ask, and I've probably said this to you a number of times, Alison, not directly to you, but on occasions like this, and that is, if you could rehire everybody in your team tomorrow, based on what you know now, who would get to stay? You know, who would make the cut? And rarely do I ask that question, and the answer is, oh yes, every single person. There's always somebody who came through very quickly, was hired in a hurry maybe, or they drifted into full-time employment because the probation system wasn't as effective as it might have been. But you know, they're there, they're often causing problems. They're the people that, you know, we go home to our other halves and, oh, you'll never guess what he did today, sort of people, those sort of people that your other halves know as well as you do. You know, those individuals who are never quite right for your team. And in a crisis, and when you're looking to be resilient, you want to have the right team around you. You know, it's got to be full of the right people who share your values, people who buy into your way of doing things, good team players, people who take ownership for their role. And
it's going to be people that you can trust. I mean, trust has become such a massive thing, hasn't it? Because
Absolutely.
management by walking about is clearly no longer possible.
No, absolutely. But trust for me comes from hiring the people in the first place who share your values, giving them good training, you know, like really solid training that's not, oh, why can't they get it right? You know, I showed her that 2 weeks ago, sort of training. What did I showed her 2 weeks ago look like? Was it, I sat down with her, I took her through a very clear, you know, how to of the role of the task. I sat and let her ask questions, let her practice. Then I walked away knowing that she could do the job. Was that what you did 2 weeks ago? Or did you go, right, you do this, okay, got it, right. And off. And trust comes from right people, right training, and then good feedback. And as Brits, we aren't necessarily known for giving effective feedback. We tend to fudge it quite a lot. We'll use sarcasm, or we'll make a joke of it, or we'll just give them the look. I can't do the look with my lockdown hair. But you know, I had a guy said to me, "Oh, they always know because I just give them the look." Okay,
Yeah,
right.
you might think so.
Do they know what they've done wrong? Do they know how to put it right? So it's trust. Absolutely is the vital ingredient. But the only way you can get to trust is if you've hired right in the first place, and you know that the person is a really good fit for your team because they share your values. Then you've trained them, and then you've given feedback if they've cut corners or if they've dipped below your standards. That's where you get trust, and that's when you can start working on your business rather than in it, because you can walk away and leave those people. In a McDonald's setting, when I was first a manager, you'd see people walking in, and they, you wouldn't immediately think, oh great, I'm going to be able to trust these people. Often, they're often people that the education system had thrown out, or had tried other jobs and it hadn't worked out. They come in through your door, they shuffle in, maybe it's their first job because their mother or father has kicked them out and told them to get yourself a job, and within days, certainly within a week, they are performing, and they have taken ownership for a job, and they are learning to be part of a team and working as part of a team and not wanting to let their team members down. And And that is because there are systems in place that they just have to follow.
I get the sense we're moving towards number 3 here, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are moving towards number 3, which is having one right way to do everything in your business. One right way. There's one way to cook French fries in a McDonald's. Everybody follows it. Nobody would dream of doing it any other way. My mum does it differently. I'm going to, put more salt on, or I'm going to, take them out early, or you just follow the way it's done. I joined McDonald's as a very, very, very naive young woman, and within 12 months they'd made me a restaurant manager, and I would love to say it was because I was just brilliant, but it was actually because I just learned to follow the systems, and I followed them really well, and I learned how to develop the team around me through the systems. But I had 2 18-year-old floor managers, a team of 50, £1.5 million business, and I could go away on holiday and know that those 2 18-year-old floor managers were going to run the business, and they were going to get it right. And that is because there is one right way to do everything in a McDonald's. And people often say, oh yeah, but that's flipping burgers and shoveling chips. Yes, it is, but there's actually one right way all the way through the business in McDonald's. It's not just in the restaurants, it's at every level, in every area of the business. And it makes such a difference. When with our clients, when we're getting them to create how-to guides, and we say, right, you need to first of all decide what that one right way is, and then you need to create a how-to guide. And we're going to make it easy for you because you create a how-to video rather than typing up step 1, step 2, step 3. Because everybody thinks they've got to have a manual. Everybody thinks, oh, I've got to give people a book that they can look up. But that's not how we learn these days. We watch videos. I know I go to Google and YouTube when I want to learn something new. And the more we can show people, the more they've got the opportunity to pause, rewind, repeat. Pause. What exactly did she put? It's just it makes life so much easier. The thing with having one right way from a resilience point of view is that if somebody does leave, like during this pandemic, there will be people who have decided, do you know what? I realize that I'm missing out on life. I'm missing out on my children. I want to do something completely different. I don't love the job I'm doing, or I don't love the commute I've got, which an awful lot of people are finding that. I've got used to I haven't been near a motorway for 4 months. It's fantastic. But I've got used to not commuting, and actually, do you know what? I love it. I want to find something nearer to home. A resilient business goes, really sorry to see you go, but okay, because we can hire somebody in, we've got everything set up, we've got our one right way to do everything. So it's very easy for somebody to come in and step straight into those shoes. At McDonald's, we used to say somebody could leave, and before the sand has covered their tracks, somebody else has taken over their role, which sounds really harsh, but actually from a business continuity point of view, it's fantastic. It just means that you never have to worry about, oh, Mary's not in. She's not well. She's not going to be in for 3 weeks. And there's so much knowledge in Mary's head that we haven't. Do you know how to do that? I don't know how to do that. Mary always does it. And there are lots and lots and lots of businesses that are in that position, and who will have struggled over lockdown, and hopefully, but scrabbling to put that right now, scrabbling to get that knowledge out of people's heads and into some form of how-to guide, some form of training, so that there is one right way to do everything in the business.
So we've got planning, we've got people, I'm going to call that processes, because I'm a fan of alliteration. I'm very much hoping that number 4, I can sort of scrape the P together for. What's number 4?
It's leadership.
I'm trying to think of it. I'll work on it.
Oh yeah, leadership. Yeah, the resilience around leadership for me is about leading, not following. You know, when a crisis hits, there is often panic, and online there is, well, online at any point, at any time, there is a whole load of smoke and mirrors, and business owners looking at somebody who's talking about how brilliantly they're doing during the crisis, and oh, it's fantastic, and we did this and this and this, and it's amazing, and people, oh right, so I should be doing that, okay, right, and they start following rather than leading. They don't recognize that they know their business best, that their gut will actually probably be a better guide than what somebody over there is doing that seems to be working. And you know, from a McDonald's standpoint, their biggest error in terms of leadership was when they thought, everybody's trying to be healthy, let's have salads, let's do salads because everybody wants salads, and you know, crikey, we could sell a lot of salads because, you know, we're McDonald's, and lots of people don't go to McDonald's for salads. People were never going to go to McDonald's for salads. It's like the people who want salads might bring their children in, and they might think about it, but actually they'd rather go to their, I don't know, local cafe and or stay at home and have a delicious salad. You know, people don't go to McDonald's for salads, and it nearly bring the business down is a bit strong, but it really caused the customer base to doubt McDonald's, and to doubt their strategy, and to doubt who they were. And it actually took a new chief exec to come in and go, no, we're about the Big Mac and the quarter with cheese. Let's get back to making those the best they can be, and you know, promoting the hell out of them, which is what happened. And I think we need to remember who we are, and what has made us successful so far, what it is about us as individuals that people buy into and love, and want to be around, want to be part of, and not try and copy somebody else. I do believe in modeling really good elements of what other people do, and looking at what somebody does and thinking, how can I make what they're doing work within my business and within my framework? But it has to be, and Craigie, don't get me wrong, I have done my fair share of, maybe I should, I've done my fair share of that in the past, but I recognize now that if you stay completely true to yourself and to your business, your customers know where they're at and they trust you, which sort of loops back to the what I was saying about the BSE and the mad cow, that when you take a leadership position and you are absolutely, this is who we are, this is what we do, your customers trust that, they know where they're at. Your team absolutely know where they're at, because that's what they bought into in the first place. They bought into you and your values, and they share your values, and they're enthused by where you're going with your business. So they've fully bought into that. If you start wavering and trying to be like other people, your team lose trust in you as well. And you know, obviously in terms of profile, the more consistent you can be in everything, the more consistent you can be in your delivery, in your how you present yourself and what you talk about, people can just, yeah, right, that's the leader I want to follow, or not. You know, we all attract different people, don't we? So
you could say perhaps that it was purpose for this fourth one.
Purpose, that'll do nicely. I like that.
I'm deeply satisfied now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is purpose. You're right.
So of those four things, and actually I've got a question that Ken's submitted to me as well about process and one-off situations and stuff, which I know you have really interesting stuff to talk about. So we'll come to that in the Q&A, Ken. Thank you. It's a great question. But just before we come on to the Q&A bit, I wanted to ask you what, as a small business owner, so as a leader of a small business,
Yeah.
You're still here, which is great, sort of several months on into the pandemic. What are the things that you can do now? What are the sort of first steps that you can take to ensure that you are a more resilient business as we head out of this? I don't think many of us are going to have quite the V that McDonald's have had, but as we head out of this, what are the things that we can do to just learn those lessons and make our businesses more resilient for the future?
Yeah. Well, I think it is about learning the lessons. I think it is about sitting down, spending proper time thinking about what you learned about yourself, your business, the team, what worked well and what you need to change and adapt, and then put plans in place for how you are going to change and adapt. If it is relating to people, if you've uncovered that there is a big gap in terms of skills in your team, for example. So how are you going to fill that gap? Is there somebody in your team who could be trained to fill that gap? Or do you need to hire in those new skills? If you need to hire in, how long is that going to take? What's the financial trigger going to be that's going to allow you to hire that person in? When are you going to do that? If it's around a product that just is no longer fit for purpose because the way the world has changed, how so much has moved online. If there is a product that needs changing, we were talking about the other P word, pivot, earlier. If you've had to pivot during the pandemic,
they're everywhere.
Can you now, with lockdown easing, can you now go back? Should you be going back, or do you want to press on? It's really about thinking, what has happened? What has changed? What have you learned? What does that mean for the future? What does that mean for the next 12 months, the next 2-3 years? And putting those, even if they're just outline plans in place, but this is where, this person sadly needs to leave the team. We need to hire in this skill. We need to adapt this product because we've learned that this element of it doesn't work online. That's something that I learned with my new program, is that one of the elements works brilliantly when you're around a table and you can map things out on paper. It's trickier when it's online. So what are those sort of things that you're learning that are going to guide your future to make sure that you keep on getting it right? What have you learned about yourself in a crisis that if another one comes along, please God, it won't be another pandemic, but a financial crisis maybe. If something comes along, what can you recognize in yourself? For me, it was that 2 days of, oh my God, the sky is falling. If you recognize that and go, right, 2 days, I'm going to be like that. So no decisions for 2 days when a crisis hits. No decisions. Wait until you've allowed the dust in your mind to settle, then start making decisions. And I've recognized that in myself, and I think other people will have responded in different ways. So just recognize that about yourself so that it doesn't concern you when the next crisis, because another crisis will hit at some point. We are business owners. So what, how can you use that to make it better next time?
And do you have any top tips on the way you go about capturing those learnings? Because it's all very well to say, draw out the learnings, but what does that actually look like in the business?
Well,
what can it look like?
For me, it looks like a plan for the future, because that's all, you take what you've learned in order to plan for the future. So for me, it looks like, what is our plan now for the next 90 days, the next 12 months, the next 3 years, which is the time frame that I always plan in. Where do I now want to be in 3 years, with the world having changed the way it has? Has that changed massively? So it's I'm afraid I don't have a sort of, here are three things that you should do. For me, it is about that planning, and about planning around your people. I mean, the other big thing that I would absolutely get everybody to do is, if they don't have how-to guides, how-to videos in place for everything that they do routinely, particularly in their business, I would start getting those how-to guides created, and not by the individuals on this call necessarily, but by members of the team who do the task really well, who do it to your standard and as you want it done. Get them to create the how-to videos, involve them, engage them in the, we're never going to get caught out again sort of mode, if you like. But I do think business is very simple. I don't think it's easy, but I do think it's very simple. That if you have a great product, if you have a team who follow one right way to do everything as you want it done to your standard, and if you look after that team, give them the training, give them the feedback, I don't think you can lose. And I really genuinely think it's that simple. It's, it's not about working 150 hours a week and 7 days and, losing relationships. I just see, I see way too many business owners whose relationships just fall apart because the business takes over their life. They're a slave to it, and it doesn't need to be that way. I've got off resilience now.
Well, in a sense, you haven't actually, because the other thing is it's personal crises. If you're a business owner who is required to be in your business 24/7, and your team have to look to you for every decision, and you fall ill, your business is going to go down the tube. And that's another form of resilience, isn't it? It's an everyday resilience.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is very true. That is very true. And too many businesses do rely on their business owner. We're all from a very early age as business owners and entrepreneurs. We're told to build our business to sell. That should be the nirvana of every business owner, is to sell their business. Well, you can't sell your business if it relies on you being there the whole time. If your people need to have you over their shoulder in order for them to do their best work, then you can't sell your business. Well, you can, but you
sell yourself
with it.
Which happens, of course. Yeah. So actually, there's sort of three really good reasons for doing this stuff, isn't there? There's one that just makes your life better, means you can go on holiday. There's one that means you can sell your business for a better price and not be tied into it for a long period of time. And the other one, that this, the next crisis that comes along, you will weather it better. And it's actually the same thing that you do for all of those benefits.
Absolutely. No, it is completely. Systems for me crisis-proof your business, and I will always look at McDonald's and see that as the best, best testament to that. While other big businesses, John Lewis sort of getting, closing down stores, and I never thought I'd see that. And they're a really well-run, really good business. Do they have that? Do they have that resilience? Do they have those systems in place? Do they have a culture of and a leanness about them? Well, clearly not, I guess, because it's we're seeing what's happening right now.
And I remember in the podcast you used a phrase that will stay with me, which is systems transform lives, which I thought was great. And that's it. It sounds quite abstract, but actually the impact is incredibly personal as well.
Yes, exactly. It is for me, and because I do get very sort of personally involved with my client, not in that way, but personally involved.
Very unprofessional, Marianne.
Yes, with my clients, and I see them struggling, and it frustrates the hell out of me, because their lives can't. Well, obviously they're working with me, so I know I've got hope for them. But I see that if they simply had systems in place, and it is as simple as that. It's that buying into systems only exist to make life easier, and if a system doesn't make life easier, it's the wrong system. Buy into that, and life becomes easier.
And I love that. It's not easy, but simple. I think
Yeah.
that's a brilliant distinction. That's fantastic, Marianne. Thank you so much. Good stuff there. I'm going to move to the Q&A because I know. Fantastic. Marianne, thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Every
Very
time
welcome. I've loved it, as
it's
always.
wonderful. Every time I talk to you, I come away with sort of new ideas and energy. So it's absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure I speak for everybody saying that as well. Ken's saying, very good webinar. I'm looking forward to reading your book excellently, which brings me to the book. So yes, mission to manage, because managing people, hold it up again, managing people doesn't need to be mission impossible. It's just 99p on Kindle, 99 cents if you're across the pond, until the end of tomorrow, which is when it launches. So that's a proper
Buy it tomorrow.
bargain.
Buy it tomorrow.
And then we'll contribute to the whole bestseller thing, which will be marvelous. So
No,
yeah,
really,
and
really appreciate you
congratulations.
being here. Thank you to everybody for being here.
Thank you. And the next webinar in this series will be on the 12th of August, when I'm going to be speaking to Nick Suckley, who's the author of Start, Scale, Sell, about the upside of downturns. So how to find the opportunities, even in crisis situations, whatever stage of business you're at, starting, scaling or selling. And if you would like to explore becoming a practical inspiration author yourself, I would love to hear from you. We are very proud to be publishing partners with leaders in a wide range, wide and wild range of fields. And you can find out more about us at practicalinspiration.com. So that really is it. I brought it in just ahead of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Marianne, on behalf of everybody. It's been an absolutely fantastic hour. And yeah, hope to see you all back here in August for the next PyQ webinar.
Brilliant.
Goodbye.
Thanks so much, Alison. Cheers.
Take care.